All right, hey guys, before we get going on the four main principles of design, so contrast, alignment, proximity, and repetition, I think one thing to note, and we'll get into this a bit more as we move forward, but regardless of the design software that you're using, the expectation with all manner of graphic or visual design is that the field will be divided into three columns and three rows. And so when we start talking about the relationship between images in a poster, the expectation is that the field is divided in these ways. So that's one quick note. All right, so starting with contrast, both in your woven textbook, but then also in the link that I've provided, both here and on the calendar page, will take you to this VW overview of key design concepts. So, a quick definition of contrast is the state of being strikingly different from something else in juxtaposition or close association. So, when we think about contrast in this poster, one thing that we're thinking about first is most striking is color, right? And that's both most striking and then the easiest. So we'll get the contrast can be established using a combination of colors, typically that lie opposite on the color wheel. So if we go back to our example poster, we'll see that this blue and this orange are nicely juxtaposed across from one another on the color wheel, just because complementary colors provide contrast should not be an invitation, or how should I put it, cannot be applied in general or in total, right? So while blue and red are across from each other, obviously on the wheel, a thing to keep in mind is that different shades of the same colors work far better than the sort of hard contrast. So for certain colors, too much contrast is off-putting to the reader. In addition to color contrast, this poster makes excellent use of contrast in terms of size. So just take one quick step back. This layout is not only in keeping with the sort of transparent layout that we would use in visual design, but is also typical to a broader genre of poster design that you would see across the sciences and in business and even now in the humanities, right? And so in terms of contrast between column A, column B, and column C is rhetorical, right? So there's a way in which this first column sets up its sort of like hypothesis and topic, takes a point of view on the topic. And then this second column provides data, context, research, etc. And then the final column provides, in different ways, results and suggestions for what to pursue in the future, right? And so in keeping with the visual contrast, the visual contrast is echoed by the contrast in the content, right? So additionally, size helps draw the reader's attention to the different components of the poster and tells us in what order we should read it. So for example, water and energy is bigger than this is like a H1 heading, than the H2 heading that comes beneath it. And then that one's bigger than the paragraph level, right? And so we know as readers that we should read down and that this, while bigger, bears relation to this, right? I would say finally another thing to keep in mind with this poster and a reason that it seems successful for my money is the ways in which the poster asks you to compare the relationship between water and energy, and that those colors reinforce the content over the course of the poster, right? So our eyes are also drawn to this central image in which water use and energy use are both verbally and visually compared. Finally, another thing that we can think about in terms of contrast is shape. And so there's a nice sort of contrast between the hard lines of these text boxes and then the wavy lines that separate out this information, right? So we know that the information contained in these boxes is going to be different than the information contained in these boxes. And so all of these kind of cues work together. Finally, like the bold and the plain text paragraph work together to communicate the overall goal of the poster, which is water and energy are inextricable, and in order to sustain both, they have to be thought together. So.